Black Mirror, Season 6, Episode 2, Loch Henry. Welcome back to another Floppyleggs YouTube video. I appreciate you coming on through. I am reviewing Episode 2 of Season 6, Loch Henry. This is the final season that I'm going to be reviewing. I've done Season 7 when it first came out, and then I've done all the other ones, and we're slowly going to finish very soon. If you've not seen all of the ones I've done, make sure you check out the playlist above. I'd really appreciate it. Of course, we're going to go through the story, the concept, the characters, and of course, the twist in this episode. And my, oh my, what a twist. If you have seen this episode, make sure you leave a comment down below what you rate it out of 10. Let's get into it. Spoiler warning ahead. Starting off with the story, of course, David and Pia are driving through the countryside to go home to David's mum, Janet, who is waiting for them in their family home. And they're in Loch Henry back home to film a documentary about someone that's protecting eggs from being stolen from people. I low-key wanted to see that. I wanted to see that, how, that's really cool. We see, of course, this documentary idea spirals and changes as the episode progresses. We go to their family home, and of course, Janet, the mum, is very quiet, quaint, and a bit odd, and it makes sense. She's in the middle of nowhere. Her husband has sadly passed away a few years ago. She's on her own, and she's you can see why those characteristics maybe are like that for her. We see David go to the pub. It's a ghost town, Loch Henry. There's no one about. Every shop's boarded up. And David goes to meet his mate Stuart at the pub, where we find out about the reason Loch Henry is a ghost town. And we find out about the heinous individual called Ian Adair, who committed terrible crimes to tourists. And that's the reason why no one turns up to Loch Henry anymore, even if it is a beautiful looking area, as Pia said. And once Pia hears about this awful individual, we see her take this idea and run with it. She wants to change the egg idea. Once she sees the actual house where it all happened, she wants to change it from the egg idea to now doing a documentary about this, even though David has already spoken to her about how his father basically lost his life in the long run because of what happened that night. And now she's like, it was a bit messed up, I'm not going to lie. It's just like, that's your boyfriend and he's just told you this terrible, tragic thing. And your first thought is, I want to make a documentary about it. And I think that is also what we see later on in the episode, in how this episode is a Black Mirror episode. Because it isn't on paper, it doesn't feel like Black Mirror, which I'll talk about more when we get to the concept. But of course, the story then progresses. They make this documentary. They're saying, we're going to change it. And then, of course, they go to the documentary house that made the Callow years, which is another fun Easter egg reference that was also in the Jonah's Awful. And they're obviously speaking to the head of Streamberry or what have you in that moment, trying to pitch their idea to her. And she's like saying, we need something unique. We need something not seen before. And this then spurs them to go into the dungeon that was where all the heinous activities happened in the story that was told before. So they break into this area and they go to the dungeon, and they obviously are recording on the old video recorder that was of David's mother and his father. And they're using that because they want it to look like they found footage of the actual people that went in there at the time. So obviously they're faking this. There was so much in this episode in the story where they were giving you seeds, giving you crumbs at different moments that will lead to the reveal. This was the second time I've watched it, and I'm just going to say it right now, it hit just as hard as the first time I watched it. The fact that there's all of the video cassettes of the old TV show that they saved. You see it there from the very beginning. It's in your face. You got the mask on the wall. It's in your face from the very beginning. As soon as you enter the house, and then of course the cassette in the video player, you see it there as well. It's just little crumbs telling you where this is going to go. So of course they are filming this, and this is where the episode, for some reason, goes up like 10 gears. Okay, of course they get into the car crash, and that causes David to be away from the home, as he has been concussed and needs to stay in overnight. And that's where, of course, he sees Stuart's dad, who had a fall earlier on as they were recording some bits for the documentary. And this is where it just suddenly turns into this crazy thriller, where Pia is at home alone with Janet, and Janet's making this shepherd's pie. And no one's made a shepherd's pie so scary in their life before. The smearing of the mashed potato, or the breaking of the minced meat. It was just all this oh Lord, why am I so on edge? Of course, I know why I'm on edge because I've seen it before. But when I first watched it, I was like, what's going on here? As Stuart's dad walks closer to David, is like, is he the real killer? Is that why he is a drunk? Is he trying to mask what he really knows? And it turns out he was only theorizing what was inevitably the truth. And of course, Pia is now digitizing the recordings that they did earlier on the film camera. And it's just this, I remember when I first watched this, and this reveal was so like the rug was pulled by behind our feet. You know, there was no clue of that being the case. It was absolutely just devastating, the reveal. And then then the thriller aspects like really kick in as, you know, Janet walks in and says the shepherd's pie is ready, and you see Pia. And there's part of me, when I rewatched it, you're screaming at Pia, like, what are you doing? Play it cool as much as you can. Why are you moving so shook? Like, she could have played that off completely fine, and it wouldn't have ended in the way that it did for her. But that's really like ignorant of me. I'm not in those shoes. I've not been in the house with someone that I've been revealed to be this serial killer. So I don't know how I would act on my own in that scenario. So let me not pass judgment too much. So of course they sit down for shepherd's pie, as we understand that obviously David and Stuart's dad are going to be talking about what's been revealed to us is what's being revealed to him at the same time. We don't see that, and I'm intrigued why we don't go back to that. I think it's to keep in the intensity of what's going on with Pia in this moment. She obviously sits down for shepherd's pie, tries to find service, and of course that was a crumb and a clue given to us at the very beginning. There was no service on her phone, and that paid dividends at the end. Like it shows that, you know, those things all mattered. I just feel like you could have just played that so cool, but again, I'm not in those shoes. And then this is where the mask slips as Janet goes upstairs and she finds out that the reveal that she's left the house because she saw the true tape. And then this is when it's like a flipping horror when the car light turns on and it's like Pia's like there. My thing here, okay, now Pia's on the run, she's running away, and she doesn't need to go further. She's by the wall, yeah, like this, and then she runs down. She could just stay down there. Why did she decide to traverse through the river? What purpose was there? Because as you can see, Janet obviously loses her head, and as I said, the mask really does slip, which is actually so cool. I've just thought this now. There's a bloody mask. Her whole thing was wearing a mask while she did the heinous crimes, and this whole episode she didn't have it on, but she really did have a different mask on, where she masked her true self is the criminal crazy self, where she wore the actual mask. When the mask is off, she puts on the fake mask, which is the nice, innocent, quaint old lady living on her own in a house, when really she is the devil. You know, that's crazy. She was dining with the devil as well. So many things just come to me now. But yeah, Pia doesn't not need to do that. Again, a crumb given earlier about what David was saying about the countryside and how dangerous that is, and things like that, and people go missing all the time. You know, you rent a kayak, you might not come back, and Pia decides to run through a river stream, and obviously it just happens in seconds. This whole, I remember when I looked at the time on the episode, and it was 14 minutes left, and I was like, what? 14 minutes left? There's still so much nothing's been revealed yet. And then all of a sudden it's like, she sees the tape, she runs outside, she bangs her head, she's gone, she drowns. Janet unalives herself, and then bang. It's like, that happens within 5 minutes. It's like, as I said, the rug is completely pulled from beneath us, and you're left feeling just devastated about just the whole scenario. More specifically, devastated for, of course, David. And that's where this episode concludes, as Janet leaves everything out for him for the film Mum. That's her last act that she did before she took her life. It's crazy where, in the sense, like, she did that. Her last act was giving him everything he wanted. You know, the footage needed to make the documentary what it was, to be able to sell it off, to be able to be on Streamberry, to be able to win the awards, get recognition from the masses. In that sense, that was able to give him that. But at the same time, what gave him everything took everything away from him. His girlfriend was gone, his home was gone, of course his mother was gone as well, and his perception of his father was gone as well. Everything was ripped away from him. Everything he knew and loved was gone. And that's where I asked the question, was it worth it? And that question becomes really prevalent when he is sitting on his own after the awards, and he's looking at the BAFTA with a glass of champagne in his hands, and is all suited and booted, and he's just absolutely distraught. And that I think, as a shot, is one of the most poignant, one of the most like hard hitting in all of Black Mirror. I remember when I first saw that, and I just left sitting there just like in bits, just like, wow, like he got his wish, he got what he wanted. Any filmmaker or aspiring person in that realm in film and what have you wants to have recognition. not necessarily the awards. They want the recognition. He got recognition like never seen before. He allowed Loch Henry to become a fruitful tourist attraction again, with Stuart's pub being filled with hundreds of people, which I'll get to very shortly in the concept. But it's just messed up, especially with the contrast from him being within the award show, the glitz, the glam, the flashing lights, the pictures, the popularity in his face, everything. But when it comes to it, he's on his own. And that's where it's dark and gloomy, and he's staring at the award, and his whole thought process is, of course, was it worth it? That is like just mind breaking. Moving over to the concept. Now, this is really interesting. Okay, so I was watching this back, and I know I'm doing the review for it, and I'm thinking to myself, is this a Black Mirror episode? It's a great thriller. It's a great story. Is it a Black Mirror episode? What is the technology? What is the social message being given to us, which is the case for every Black Mirror episode? And I really thought about it, and you don't know until the very end. And the very end is where the concept becomes really prevalent. It is the fact that it's, again, similar to Jonah's Awful. It's calling out Streamberry, Netflix. It's calling out us, again, as an audience, okay? So Netflix and Streamberry, let's just call it Netflix. Netflix make crime dramas. I remember when like the first few came out back in like the early stages of Netflix, and people hooked onto it like that. People love it. People love crime dramas. They love it because it's real. But for them, it's entertainment. And that's the whole conversation being had here, is they took this horrible, real story with real victims, real pain, a real thing, and made it entertainment for the masses, which then made people go to Loch Henry. They wanted to go there. And again, that's a benefit and a positive, because it keeps the city alive. And we saw the problems with Stuart having an empty pub and things like that. But you've taken something and you've absolutely torn David's whole world apart. But for people, it's a fun excursion. It's a fun story to go away to. They're putting on masks as props within the pub to celebrate being there, when actually the actuality of the story was horrific and horrible and heinous. And then you hear the Netflix, the Streamberry head saying they're thinking of making it a drama series already, and it's just this other conversation just being like that is reality. And I think this episode isn't supposed to be like technology, like whoa. It's supposed to be like, oh yeah, this horrible, shocking story, let's show you it. Okay, and now let's look at the end, where now it's becoming it's a product for monetization, for clicks, for engagement, for entertainment. This horrible story you just watched, where you've been following David, for us, as I said, the rug's pulled beneath us. His whole world's been pulled beneath him. And now it's just a show to watch for people to choose or not choose. It's like this mental thing of, again, the question of the whole episode, was it worth it? And it's so hard hitting. So yeah, the concept in my eyes was not as obvious, but arguably one of the best, because it really makes you look at like something that I don't think we do. And it's really interesting. I think maybe one key reason is because we're desensitized to it. When we do scroll through Netflix or Prime or whatever it is, and we do see these documentaries that are our true stories, true crime stories, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. Because I feel like it's human to try and understand how some people could get to a certain extent to do such horrible things. We want to understand that. So I don't think we're terrible for that. But it's interesting that we don't see the David when we watch those documentaries. We don't see the world that's been wrecked and ruined we don't see it from their perspective. Like, we don't ever think of it because we haven't lived it. And he's lived that thing, and now it's this product for everyone to enjoy, a bit of entertainment, to go to Loch Henry for a tourist trip. It's messed up, and it's one that's left me it leaves you more deep in that when you do now scroll through all these things. And that's the beauty of Black Mirror. It will make you think 10 times more about different things, not just technology, but society as well. And this one is a very societal one. And it's, again, so interesting. Netflix are calling themselves out, as well as their own audience. It's like, I don't know if Charlie Brooker just dropped that in, being like, yeah, that Netflix will just, give it the all clear, not deep in that I'm actually calling them out and the audience out, and I'm just a big brain genius. Moving over to the characters, I'll make this quite quick. I'll be honest, Stuart, hilarious. I really liked him. He was a fun character. I do feel really sad for his dad. Do you know what I mean? I feel like that's one thing that it doesn't really tie the knot on it. I know he has that little clip in the actual documentary that comes out where he's like, I always thought this, and maybe we can now just connect dots and assume that maybe that will make him clearer minded and maybe not be so like be an alcoholic and things like that. But yeah, he was just ridiculed the whole episode, and really and truly he was holding on to something, but he couldn't say it because he didn't know if it was true, because it was so unbelievably like what an ex-police officer and a quiet, shy woman is actually the ones doing it as well. Like he had to deal with that his whole life. Pia and David, I don't think they were great characters or bad characters. I think they were tools to continue the plot, you know, continue the story. They were necessary. David was necessary. David wasn't the best character, and in characters wise in this episode, Black Mirror wise, it's some of the weaker ones, of course, but I like them all. What was brilliant about it was the twist with the characters. I think it was different to ones we've seen before, because no one in their right mind when they first watched this episode would ever have said Janet, the mum, would have been part of that. And it was such a great acting performance, and obviously the actress was also in Smithereens, also playing a police officer. Charlie Brooker, these Black Mirror producers and writers, they don't do nothing for no reason. They brought her back, I feel like, because it's like a contrast of that. She was the police officer detective, but in this one she's the wife of the husband, and I don't know what it is. I'm not that big brain to work it out, but there's a reason. Leave a comment down below if you can think of it. But Janet, yeah, was two characters in this episode, and it was so brilliant to see the mask slip. But then what I thought about as I spoke, the actual mask, that is brilliant. I didn't even think of that until I said it. And this episode is just fantastic. Let's get to the twist though. I think is probably one of the biggest twists in all of Black Mirror. And then the whole like twist at the end of like, oh, of course, the documentary wasn't worth it. That's the question being answered. It wasn't worth it. Or was it? Is it worth knowing the truth about the world or your world? Is it worth it? Or is ignorance bliss? You know? Yes, his mother and father were absolutely horrid people, but to him they were his mum and dad, and he threw that all away, or didn't throw it all away, but he lost all of that. He lost everything for this documentary, and now his world is empty and finished. You know, was it worth it? No, it wasn't. I loved the performance, as I said, in the sense that when she turns and she's just screaming outside outside of the car in the open world, like screaming her head off. It's so polar opposite to what we see at the beginning, and of course the actual biggest polar opposite, which is only possible from me rewatching it, is the very first shot we see of David is a close-up of Pia being asleep and him smiling, and it's colorful. You know, the countryside, it's all colorful. An hour later in the episode, he's in a room alone in the dark, absolutely harrowing look on his face. And that contrast from beginning to end, yeah, you just no person in their right mind would have ever predicted this episode to go the way it did. The rewatchability of it, by the way, is fantastic. This is where I tell you my review out of 10, and I can reveal I gave this episode a 9.5 out of 10. And I know that might be a shock, okay? I don't know what makes me put it there, but for me to feel the same way I did when I first watched it again, first of all, means the story is impeccable. It's unreal. But I also think the deeper meaning of the concept, of the twist, of those messages that it's giving us is like, it's not as in your face as a Black Mirror episode, like some of the ones I have put as a 9.5. And it just shows you the depth and the difference of episodes this brilliant show can give you. It just can't be topped. I think this might be the best TV show of all time. Like, think about how many episodes I've watched now and how many I've rated below 5. You can see it now. There aren't that many. Look how many are at the top echelon. Like, and it's not me being biased or silly. Like, one episode's one about them going to space, and this episode's a true crime documentary, but the truth behind the true crime documentary. Because even when you see the trailer at the end that Streamberry have made, it's so dramatized. It's so you know. But when the reality is, it's dark, dull, and horrible. And then there's the people partying in the pub where Stuart's happy because, of course, now he's bringing the money in. But the problem of that is it's a magnifying glass once again on society, how we react to that. Like, any horrible thing in the world, there's people to go to it and see it. And like, why is that? But why not? We're just curious human beings at the end of the day. It's a great episode. Loch Henry, 9.5 out of 10. Let me know if you agree in the comments down below. If you want to see more Black Mirror reviews, please check out the previous ones I've done. I've been Floppyleggs, and I'll see you when I see you.